Welcome to the 2023 Raiders season preview show with head coach Josh McDaniels and general manager Dave Ziegler. First, how you guys doing? You've been really busy. I'll start with you, Coach.
I just got a shower. We're doing good. The last month is very busy. Obviously, getting the team ready to go, but also trying to figure out what the right group of guys to keep is, and those decisions are never easy. Dave and his group did a tremendous job of kind of, making sure we're on top of every nook and cranny we needed to be, and the last couple of days have been, busy, tough. But we feel like we got a good group that's ready to. We're going to take a couple of days here to catch their breath, and then we're going to get ready for Denver.
Dave, I want to start with you also. What's it been like? You've been nonstop the last week or two since I've seen you in Dallas.
Yeah, so it's an exciting part of the year. It's a fun part of the year too, and like Josh said, there's a lot of tough decisions that you have to make this time of year. There's a lot of guys that started with us at end of July, and we were at 90 guys that worked their tails off for us, did everything that we asked to do, and you have to make some tough decisions at the end, and along with monitoring everything that's going on in the league and every other roster in the league, and what players may come available that that you may have interest in, and whether that's on the active or the practice squad. So there's 1,000 moving parts this time of year, but and it's an exciting time.
Coach, you got to be happy Josh Jacobs is back.
Yep.
Take us through that.
I'm more happy than they are, so that'll tell you how happy I am. No, he's look, Dave and Tom and Josh's his representatives did a great job of eventually getting that figured out. And again, I've said the same thing the entire spring into the summer. I love the player and I love the person, and he's come back ready to go, which I figured he would. Jumped right back in, and you just see the impact that he makes right away. It's just different, he's the best back that I've been around, and I've been coaching for 23 years. So yeah. He's a special player. He's a special guy. He has a special impact on our team when he's here, and he was just named a captain today. So didn't take him very long. It didn't take him long to figure out who the leaders are. So we have 9 great ones, which is a high number, but that's the team votes for it, and JJ is certainly deserving.
Dave, you had a lot of confidence in getting this deal done, and great to see the relationship so strong with Josh.
Yeah, it's these situations are always tough because there's a mixture. You want to keep it business, but there's a personal side to it too, and so those and there's a lot of competing interests. The player wants to get the best deal for himself, and so does the agent. We want to get a fair deal for the club, and we also want the player to feel good about the deal. And so, through all the ups and downs, at the end of the day, was pretty confident that once it came time to needing to get the deal done, that we would get it done, and all the parties worked together, and that's what we did.
So we're going to talk about how we look ahead for the start of the season here, but first we start at the beginning on how this roster was built.
8 hours, planes are going to be landing into Indianapolis, and it's 32 teams, and most of the teams send their entire coaching staffs, their entire front office.
Raider Nation, what is going on? Eddie Pascal. We are here at the Indianapolis Convention Center, rocking and rolling and bringing you everything you need to know in terms of the 2023 Scouting Combine.
Indianapolis, Indiana, Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the Colts, and we are awfully excited to be here in the 317, the crossroads of America, for the NFL Scouting Combine.
What we need is a group of young players to become the core of this team going forward.
So we're going to do everything we can do to evaluate every player at that position, but the goal eventually is to try to have a young player here that's going to be a Raider for a long time.
This is what the Combine's all about, kids.
Your first year, you're kind of always in the first time phase. And last year, at this time, we were so busy trying to hire our staff and put everything together that we really hadn't had an opportunity to evaluate and dig into our own team. or get ahead on the next waves of acquisition phases of the offseason with the draft, the combine, free agency, and so we were really behind.
We're coming into this segment of the offseason with a lot more clarity of what the Raiders need to do in the offseason, where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. We know a lot more about our players in general. With this new coaching staff and this system, so we have a lot more clarity in that regard too, of like just talking the same language, what the value of the players, and whether it be free agency, the draft. We're not talking two different languages this year, we're talking the same language. Our scouts are curious, and I think that's a really good trait to have. They're curious about what they don't know. They're curious about learning more. And I think having that kind of growth mindset with the scouts that we have on staff is going to be a really important part of us continuing to evolve and grow as a scouting department.
This is the beginning. It's not the end of the evaluation by any means, but they have an opportunity to make an impression on us. We have an opportunity to make an impression on them. And so it's a two-way street, learning a lot about them.
It's a really valuable time to get that initial impression, get that initial interaction, and start to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together on each individual prospect.
Just excited about, this opportunity to improve, and we know that there's areas on our football team where we want to add competition, and we're excited to find those guys that are going to do that.
Coach, I'll start with you. Nice. Let's talk about the initial characteristics and values you look forward to in a player when you meet them for the first time.
Yep, tough, smart, mature. They all have talent. That's got to be a prerequisite. If they don't have enough talent, then they wouldn't even bring them, to the board. So, but we'd like to build a tough, smart, mature football team that understands how to win, can process information, is willing to communicate with one another. We just believe that that's how you win. There's a lot of close games that we play. Everybody in the National Football League plays close games. That's how this season will be defined ultimately. Who does best in those games under pressure, and the kind of people that we're looking for to help us win those games. They're going to be tough, smart, and mature.
Dave, you like language with the staff and your staff, and you guys go back a long way. What is that like as you try to ultimately come to an agreement on how you're going to make any decision going forward?
Yeah, it starts first with just great communication and having an open dialogue, being able to communicate with low ego, and keep an open mind and open ear and taking all the information. And then, ultimately, Josh and I, sit down and get to take all that information and come to an agreement on where we think the player's value is, with the help of, our scouting staff, our college director, Champ Kelly, our assistant GM, and a lot of other people help out in that process. And so just at the end of the day, it's about open communication, low ego, and doing the work.
Coach, first impressions. Maybe tell me a story or how important that is when you sit down and you talk to a player for the first time.
Yeah, they're they're on best behavior.
Yeah.
They're trying to make an impression on you. There's no question about that. And so for us, what we try to do, and Dave and the scouting staff put together a good plan for each player. Each player's different, so you can't talk to Tyree Wilson and ask him the same questions that you would ask Michael Mayer. It's just, they're different, and so their preparation for us and what we need to kind of dig on, how we need to try to, get the player to open up so we can see his real personality, not just what he wants us to see, is really part of the equation there. And so we're, it's not easy. There's some tough, those combine interviews are not easy. We try to put a little pressure on them, dig at them a little bit, ask them some things that might make them a little bit uncomfortable that are within the boundaries of what we want to try to find out, and and see what they do and how they respond. So we try to use each opportunity to gather information that will help us make great decisions.
Well, we go from the opportunity to sit down in the draft and jump right into free agency where the Silver and Black land a new quarterback.
There is a new show coming to Vegas.
Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback, Las Vegas Raiders.
What we know he is, he's a winner.
It's Jimmy Garoppolo headed to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Garoppolo throws to McCaffrey. He's got it!
Electrifying!
Throwing, caught for the touchdown!
I mean, this is just a smart move. I mean, it just makes sense for Josh. It makes sense for Jimmy.
They're down and 5. Garoppolo pulls it down. End zone. What a throw and catch. Touchdown IU.
Garoppolo throws. It is caught and taken all the way.
The relationship between Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo going back to their New England days, it always made sense.
The quarterback is usually the leader of your football team.
Tone today. Hey, let's go. Set the tone, boys. Just win, boys. Just win. That's it.
Toughness is going to be a prerequisite. You're going to have to handle adversity.
Let's go see how we handle a little adversity, huh? Hey, stay locked in. We got to score again, man.
You're going to need to be able to acclimate into a new system, into a new place with new teammates, new coaches.
The Raiders are closing in on a deal with quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. Sources say after 6 seasons and a Super Bowl appearance with the Niners, Jimmy G is on his way to Vegas to reunite with Josh McDaniels.
Raider Nation, what's going on, guys? Glad to be here. Just made it official. Can't wait to get to work, man. Let's go get this thing. Go get some W's. I'm so excited to be here. Get this thing rolling, meet the guys. I've met a couple of them around the facility, and it seems like a good family around here. Good people, and that's what it all starts with. In the locker room, I try to just be myself, honestly. I think guys, we spend so much time with each other that guys see through you if you're fake. So I try to be myself, be authentic, and I think guys respect that, and at the end of the day, that's what you want.
Jimmy Garoppolo back with McDaniels, so he doesn't have to relearn an entire offense. It seems like a massively great fit for all parties.
Josh kind of raised me in this league. When I was a rookie, I didn't understand, ball too well, and he taught me everything. Just seeing Tom and Josh learn from the two of them as a young player, it elevated my game so much and took me to a different level that I didn't know of. And I think he knows what I like, what I don't like, and we're just going to keep trying to push the envelope together and grow together. It was really cool just to see Josh. Talk to him on the phone, the other day. Brought back a lot of memories. We've had a lot of good times. We won some games together, and I think we've both grown as people just since the last time we've seen each other. So it'll be exciting to get in the film room with him, get on the blackboard, get on the field. It's all going to start to come together. Josh is a phenomenal play caller, one of the best in the league, I think, and whenever you get that opportunity to join a guy like that, you got to take it. What's up, everyone?
As far as you've taken teams and as much as you've done, is there still stuff to prove, like at this point, when you come into a new situation?
Hell yeah. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. I know every player says that when they come up to their first press conference, but that's my goal. I want to go get a ring, get the silver and black back to where it should be. And I know it's not an easy process, but it'll be worth it. What's up, guys? Appreciate it. What's going on? It's really cool. It's really cool. It's different. I like that. Hey, there we go. I think I get a neighbor or something. Wow. Enormous. Awesome. Can't wait. What's up, guys?
Welcome, Jimmy! Yeah!
Appreciate it. The mindset I'll be bringing to the stadium is just a will to win, honestly. Bring all the guys along, get everyone on the same page, and go win some games here. These fans, I've played for some good fans in the past, but I've heard Raider Nation is different. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, hearing you guys, and just feeling you on the field. It was a fumble. It was a fumble.
For the Raiders, the pieces are starting to come together. The next stop, the 2023 NFL Draft.
Raider Nation, the stadium's unreal. Got goosebumps walking in there, and I just can't wait to see it filled up with you guys, man. And hear how loud you guys are and passion we bring. It's gonna be a fun year. Can't wait. See you guys.
Well, Dave, that's a big one. Take us through the evaluation process and pulling the trigger on this quarterback.
Yeah, we obviously had some prior experience with Jimmy when he was a young player in New England, and so we knew some of what the DNA of Jimmy was, his competitive spirit, his drive, his ability to lead, and which are all super important characteristics of a successful quarterback. And he was obviously in a different system for some time, so we were able to see how he grew as a player. See how he grew as a decision maker and all the skill sets that go along with being a quarterback. And so as we started to evaluate the quarterback position this offseason, obviously it made a lot of sense, from the beginning, from our prior experience to him and what we believe he brings to a team. And so, for us, it didn't take much to decide to pull the trigger once we went through that process.
Coach, obviously you have a past with him. What's changed since the first time you worked with him?
He's got some gray hair now.
Yeah.
It's silver and black. He's had a lot of experiences now in the National Football League that he didn't have, when I was with him previous. He's played in a lot of big games. He's been in some NFC Championship games, took a team to the Super Bowl. He's also played with a number of really good football players. And so we just felt like he had some wisdom and some maturity that he's gained on his own that would add to the skill set that he has and the authenticity that he spoke of, his leadership, his toughness. All of that is real. And so just being able to see how he's changed for the good. He has opinions now that he probably didn't have when he was 24 years old, but they're good thoughts, and he understands how to lead a group of men, and he's created relationships already across the football team, offense, defense, special teams, and that's what it takes to be a really good quarterback in this league.
Coach, I want to stay on that because I'm not surprised by it. So many players and coaches around the league like him. They just speak so highly of him. That's incredible. I think Raider Nation is kind of getting used to that, all the compliments that are coming from around the league.
Yeah, I think he's real.
Yeah.
He's real. Jimmy G is real. That's the reality. And he's a good football player. Let's just, this isn't just about a guy that Dave and I had some experience with. This is a guy that is a good quarterback that's played some really good football in pressure situations during the course of his career that has led him to this moment. And he wants to be the leader of our football team, and he was also voted a captain today. So,
Dave, what surprised you most about Jimmy since he's arrived in Las Vegas?
Yeah, not too much really has surprised me about Jimmy. Like I said, he still has the same, competitive drive. He still has a way to connect to people that we saw in New England when he was a young player, and on the field, he still has a quick release. He's still accurate. He can still make a lot of throws, and so it was really just a confirmation of a lot of the things that we had seen and known, and we're just excited to have him.
Well, now with free agency in the books, we shift towards the NFL draft.
As the 2023 NFL Draft approaches, preparations at Raiders headquarters is underway. This year, the Raiders have the 7th pick in the first round. This is the first round pick under the McDaniels and Ziegler regime.
When you have a franchise that maybe hasn't had the consistent success that you would want, you look at some other teams in the division, there is no cheat code, there's no magic pill to take to get to that level. When you have multiple first-round picks in a single year, which the Raiders have had multiple times in the last few years, and those players don't pan out for whatever reason, whether it's off-the-field stuff, on the field, injuries, it really doesn't matter what it is, but when you consistently miss on that, it's going to take its toll on your roster, and you see that lack of depth start to come through, and the only way to make your roster sustainable and to have year-over-year success is to draft well. And so if you don't have that, it's just really impossible, and so that homegrown talent that he's referring to, that's what it is.
When I talk about building for the future is when you look at the construction of this team, this is just the reality of it, is we have one of the lowest percentages of homegrown talent in the league. You build a consistent winner at the end of the day by drafting and developing players and developing your own core. That's something that's going to develop over the course of time.
And so there's a natural pressure there, but I think with where they're at, and having that vision of wanting to have homegrown talent and that be their way of building, if you're not going to go make those big moves in free agency, if you're not going to swing those big trades, well, you can't miss on the draft picks too.
Is there an inherent pressure? Do you feel pressure to get it right?
Yes. I want to get 12 contributing players, and so, we put that pressure on ourselves, and I put that pressure on myself, and Josh puts the pressure on himself, and I think that pressure, that motivation to get it right, that motivation to improve the team, that's the pressure that keeps us, keeps us pushing and keeps us focused and dialed in.
For the Las Vegas Raiders scouting department, the road to the draft requires a year-round search to find the best young talent in football.
the evaluation process leading up to the draft. For our college scouts and our guys that are on the ground floor, which were our area scouts, it starts in May. So our guys start to, through our spring scouting process, they start to identify and evaluate some of the top prospects for the next draft. So those guys started as soon as the draft was over last year. They started working on the 2023 draft. And then the fall process, that's where everybody is kind of, jumping in. And what I mean by that, the area scouts are now, making their school calls, getting the character and the background information, evaluating the process, attending games. Each one of our prospects that are on the draft board have about 4 or 5 different evaluations, different people that have seen them. So that's kind of in a nutshell, the process in the fall. And then we're graduating into the All-Star games. And then it leads into the pro day circuit where, we did some traveling here this year and, hit pro days and we're able to interview players and, see them live again. And then we spend the month of April leading up to the draft. There's a, core group of 5 or 6 of us that are in the draft room Monday through Saturday watching tape, going from prospect to prospect down the board and really setting the board at that point and having a lot of discussions and debates and things like that. It's a long process, it's a tedious process, and we have a lot of people that do a lot of good work for us here within the organization that are involved in ultimately getting that draft board set.
Tyree Wilson, let's put it up, 23 reps at 225.
This guy is 6'6", has a wingspan of 84 inches, and he's like, I'll still bench. I love that.
Bennett of Maryland.
He's going to be a nickel. That's rolling.
But he's going to make nickels with a 4.31.
He's plug and play. This back-to-back Maryland corner is showing you some big-time speed.
We really were happy with all the information that our scouts had gathered, all the information we had gathered throughout the whole process. So it was a really satisfying, exciting feeling that we had going into the draft, knowing that we had done all the work. And then Josh and I really kind of hone in the last 2 weeks before the draft, and we sit down, we're watching a lot of film together. And that was an exciting thing too, because a lot of the work that we had done up to that point was separate. And we came together and not really as a surprise, but a lot of our thoughts, a lot of our ideologies, a lot of the things that we looked at when it came to evaluating players were in line once we came together in the group. So that was, there was a lot of excitement around that.
The Raiders they're in a big spot. What is it, pick 7? They got some options there. What do they want to do? Do they want to go to that quarterback route now? Do they want to, use that number 7 pick for an important part of their team that can help them out right away? They got some different avenues as far as how they can approach this. Be interesting to see.
Do you believe that they will draft, Eric, a quarterback in the first round, number 7?
No, I don't think so, Amber. I think this football team right now is really set on trying to build, right? Because you have an offense that's stacked with so many outstanding players offensively. And I think Jimmy G is going to do just enough to be able to get this team over the hump. Obviously, they're going to need a younger quarterback sometime in this draft, maybe later on. But the first pick, I think that's going to be someone who's going to make an impact this year for our football team.
With the draft quickly approaching, there are other needs on the roster that have to be addressed.
I think the offense was better than a lot of people thought last year. They were top 12 in most metrics that you would look at, but the defense really struggled in all areas, and so improving that defensive line and bulking up the linebacker core, the secondary, I think they need to address all areas. At the Combine, Dave Ziegler, I asked him, what's your philosophy for building your defense, front to back or back to front?
I've always been in a belief when you're talking about the defensive side of the football of I'd say building it inside out. I think having a strong defensive line sets the tone for the rest of the defense. But I think having a deep defensive line that can disrupt, that you can run in waves and things of that nature. And, we have a lot of work to do to get to that point. But if I was going to kind of lean one way, I would say that would be, where I would start from a building standpoint.
All right, Dave, there's a lot of media attention building up throughout that time. How did you and your staff stay focused through all that?
Yeah, it's one of those times where you have to stay true to what you believe in. And we have always talked about ignoring the noise and focusing in on what we can control the controllables. And so, during that time, we're so honed in on what we're trying to do building the board, interviewing prospects, getting an idea of who the player is from a skill set standpoint and how they're going to fit the team from a personality standpoint, that we don't have time to really worry about anything else or let anything else distract us. We have a great group of people that have a singular focus. They want to make the Raiders great, and we dial in and just focus on that.
Coach, I'll go to you. How important is it to find players who are coachable?
It's extremely important because, as Dave talked about, to sustain a roster and have success over the long haul, not only do you need to draft the right guys, but you need to be able to develop them. And so, there's very few players that are ready to play in the National Football League the day they're drafted, and so their ability to learn, their ability to think, their ability to improve, listen, all of those are critical factors for us, for them to make progress on the grass. If they can't do those things, it's hard to see them, improving and then ultimately competing to contribute. So I think we did a pretty good job this year. Our group of young men that we brought in this year has really done a nice job of putting all those other distractions away and focusing on what they can do to be better football players to help us this year.
Dave, I think it's important. The fans want to know your pre-draft grades and how you do that and go about that with your staff as you build your board.
Yeah, well, it's a process like that I mentioned. It starts in the fall, and that's the group of area scouts that are out there traveling all year, from August to November, kind of setting the table for us and giving us an initial assessment of where they think the player is going to fall on the board. And then as we start to get together prior to the draft, like I mentioned on the video there, we have a core group of people that we get together, and the month of April, after we got all the information from the combine, we have all the information from the All-Star games, from the pro days. We just basically, we sit down in a room, and as I said there, Monday through Saturday, long, 12, 13-hour days, we just grind it out and have a lot of open discussion, have a lot of debate, and try to come to a consensus on each individual player and get them positioned on the board in the right spot, and then go from there.
Coach, I talked to Rob Ryan about your start on defense and your history on the defensive side of the ball. Tell us a little bit about that when you're looking to draft and be a part of this conversation with defensive players. What do you look for?
Yeah, it's probably one of the most pivotal parts of my career was being able to start on the defense with so many really good coaches. It took a lot of time to teach me about this game, about this league, from Romeo Crennel, Eric Mangini, Rob Ryan, Pepper Johnson, Bill. Belichick spent a lot of time in our room because he's a defensive-minded guy. So to be able to sit there and kind of soak all that in for 3 years and understand, what's important on that side of the ball, and Dave and I share a very similar belief in terms of how we want to play and how we feel like you need to play to win. And I think that's made our relationship so special and so easy to do it the right way, because we can have conversations that are tough and get through those and get to a consensus on what we believe is right for the team.
Dave, you talked about building a defense inside and out. For defensive linemen specifically, what are you looking for on the line and especially in the interior?
Yeah, there's a lot of different characteristics that we do look for. At the end of the day, you want to find a guy, and there's individual roles too, but a guy that can be disruptive, whatever phase that's in, whether that's being a disruptive run defender, whether that's a disruptive pass rusher, a guy that jumps off the tape that has some disruptive qualities to their game. One of those two phases is something that is attractive to us, and along with, again, being a smart football player, being tough mentally, being tough physically. All those things go into being a successful defensive lineman.
Well, with the preparation done, now it's time to draft the newest members of the Silver and Black.
I see this team twice a year doing the Charger games, guys. This secondary needs major upgrades. And when you're in a division with these guys in this town right here with Patrick Mahomes, you need some more guys who can cover.
The one thing to keep in mind, they swung and missed, remember, for offensive tackle in a couple of drafts ago. They need that right tackle to go with Colton Miller on the left side. Jimmy Garoppolo may be their quarterback now. They're going to be angling for one in the future as well, so it's something to keep in mind.
Tyree, this is Coach McDaniels. How are you? We're going to turn the pick in here, and you're going to be a Raider. So we just wanted to congratulate you. You're really going to help our football team. We're looking forward to integrating you here with our group, and couldn't be more excited to make you a Raider here, bud.
We're excited, man. You know, smart, tough, dependable, guys that love football. And we're going to get you better, and you know, keep growing you. And it's going to be a special thing for you. We're really excited for you and your family. Enjoy this moment with everybody. You'll see it coming across the screen, and we'll see you here sooner than later.
With the 7th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Tyree Wilson, defensive end, Texas Tech.
When you look at his tape, he's an explosive guy with a ton of traits that the NFL loves. He's the prototypical defensive end. I love his game. I think he's going to be the best pass rusher in this draft.
Raiders may have gotten a guy that they can pair with Max Crosby for years to come in a division where it pays to get after the quarterback, and now they have a better defense moving forward in 2020.
Duo, not Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson. Let's go. Y'all ain't stopping that, bro. Let's go. Hey, turn me up, Tyree. Turn me up, Tyree. Tyree Wilson, let's go.
Atlanta is now on the ball.
All right.
We, definitely followed a passion for football there, and so that was one thing that was exciting. And we also identified him just as a curious learner, someone that wants to learn more about the game, someone that wants to learn more about his position, the techniques of his position, and how to play the position. And so those were really attractive things in terms of the makeup. And then the skill set, when you watched him on film, he's an explosive player with a lot of length. And then you combine that with explosive and quick twitch, we can cause a lot of problems. He's a very disruptive player on all 3 downs. We felt like he was one of the most disruptive players in the draft, in the run game and as a pass rusher. And so those were all the things that ended up making us very attracted to Tyree at that spot.
Picks rolling in, round 1, number 7. The Las Vegas Raiders selecting Tyree Wilson, the edge bender. Tyree Wilson, once a Red Raider, now painted silver and black.
I feel like being a Raider in all 3, phases of my life is something that God planned.
Look who hopped up 3 spots, flipping a 5th-round selection to Chris Ballard, general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, to make this selection and immediately toss the pick in. The Las Vegas Raiders.
We just traded with Indianapolis. We're on a clock now, and you're going to be a Raider. Congratulations and welcome. Here's Dave.
Michael.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Raider Nation.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We couldn't be more excited than to add you to the team. Congrats. Enjoy the moment with your family. We'll have someone in touch with you in terms of some travel and things like that, but enjoy the moment, man. You earned it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
With the 35th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Michael Mayer, tight end, Notre Dame.
Well, Mike was a guy that we had, evaluated that we thought he would go in the 1st round. Didn't know exactly where, but felt that's where he would go. But at the end of the day, we got to the end of the 1st round, and Michael was still there. And so once we saw a player with the value that we had on him, again, the traits both off the field and then just what his talent was on the field, he was usually one of the best offensive players on the field, no matter what game he was playing in. And so he was one of those players that was the best available player at a position that we also had a need on, and that's where it makes a lot of sense to be aggressive and go up and get him. And we're really happy that we did.
And oh, what a catch by Mayer. The ball was on the back.
With the 70th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Byron Young, defensive tackle, Alabama.
Trey Tucker, wide receiver, Cincinnati.
Jacorian Bennett, defensive back, Maryland.
Aiden O'Connell, quarterback, Purdue.
Christopher Smith, defensive back from Georgia. Amari Burney, linebacker, Florida.
Niesta J. Silvera, defensive tackle, Arizona State.
You know, to be able to do some of the things that we were able to do in this draft, which we were aggressive to move up, was there were ways that we had acquired picks throughout the year. But fans and things of that nature of the game don't understand how maybe a trade in August can affect your ability to do some things in the draft all the way in April. There were different moves that we made throughout the year that allowed us to have some extra picks that allowed us to be flexible in the draft.
All right, Coach, we'll start with you. I want to go back to Tyree Wilson. We heard what Dave talked about with the intangibles. You got a superstar with Max Crosby. When you were getting ready for this pick, what were you thinking ahead of time?
Well, we had Tyree in the building, and, you know, we'd all liked his tape, you know, before he had the injury, and we just got comfortable with his personality, his passion for football. Look, we know who we have to sack, you know, 6 times a year. Mahomes, Herbert, Russell Wilson. I mean, we're going to play those guys, you know, 6 out of 17 games. So you can never have enough pass rushers. You can never have enough disruptive defensive linemen, as Dave mentioned. It just felt like this is a guy that was explosive, you know, can create negative situations in a running game and can really get after the quarterback. So, you know, we were thrilled when we had the opportunity to get him, and now having him on the field, being able to get his first game action out of the way in Dallas, and now, you know, getting ready for a first game week, it'll be exciting to have him out there.
Dave, I want to talk about your patience and flexibility. What'd you learn this time around from the year before? Because we saw you move up for Michael, then you get a quarterback. What was that like in real time from day 1 to day 2, and being patient but very flexible?
Yeah, I think, you know, each individual draft, you know, plays out a little different. It's almost like a football game, you know, and each game kind of plays out differently, whether it's, you know, whether you have to, it's a run-dominated game or a pass-dominated game or what have you. And I think as we saw the draft unfold, you know, we felt like, you know, it was a draft that we wanted to be aggressive and to go get some players. And as I mentioned there, you know, you have to have some patience to know when to be aggressive and when to make those moves. But as we mentioned, there was a lot of things that we did throughout the year last year to acquire picks, which are all tough decisions. You know, whether you're trading a player, or, you know, that's been with the organization or what have you. But you know, those are tough decisions that we made to acquire the draft capital, to be flexible in the draft, to go up and get some of the players that we wanted.
Coach, tell me something you learned about a member of this draft class that you didn't know before the process.
I don't know if there's a lot of things you learn, honestly, you know, but I think, you know, what we get to see now is how they respond to competition and adversity. You don't always see that as a coach because you can't be there in the fall when they're practicing. You can't see the Michael Mayers of the world, the Trey Tuckers, the Jacorians, you know, compete in practice and do those kind of things. And I thought our joint practices for our rookies, our young players, were really great experiences because the temperature gets turned up.
Sure.
You know, it's not just a normal training camp practice. You know, there's another team on the other side that, you know, they're trying to impress their coaching staff and their personnel staff. And I just think I really liked the way our young players have kind of, you know, turned up to the competition and handled some of the adversities that they had to deal with during the course of those few days, and really responded the right way to grow and improve.
Dave, you can tell from the fans, a lot of the fans are excited about this draft class. What could the entire organization do to help them live up to their potential?
Yeah, just continue to grow and pour into them, both as football players and both as people. And we have a great coaching staff that can handle that on the coaching side. You know, we have a great player development staff that can pour into these guys as people and as professionals. You have to remember, these are, you know, 22, 23-year-old kids that are, you know, stepping into a whole new world where they're, you know, they're making a lot of money. There's a lot of new pressure. There's a lot of life transitions that they go through. They have to grow up and become an adult very quickly, and we have to foster that, and we have to teach them, you know, how to handle those things and how to grow. And our player development department does a great job of that, and Josh and his coaching staff does a great job of educating them on becoming better football players.
So as training camp wrapped up, we had joint practices with the Rams and 49ers and got a look for the first time at this draft class.
But it's an everyday process. But yeah, I think we're going in the right direction. We have guys playing for each other.
starting to find our groove here. Guys are playing well today.
Come on, Dave. That's the way it should be. That was 22 basically perfect plays.
I don't have to tell Max Crosby to come out here.
Another day in paradise.
That's it. Hey.
I was always a Raider, man. You know what I'm saying? It's something that was in me since I was a little kid. I mean, the emphasis for us, man, we want to create turnovers as a defense. You know what I'm saying? We want to play fast, we want to communicate, and we want to show high effort. And I think we've been doing that so far.
Over the middle, intercepted, picked off, it was tipped. Raiders coming in on return. It holds to the end zone. What a catch! And he kept his feet down. Christian Wilson. Freeman checks in. Freeman hit by Spillane at the line of scrimmage and goes nowhere. Brandon Bolden bulldozing his way through. Touchdown Raiders.
That's an impressive first drive.
A lot of work put in. Now it's time to really get to work.
All right, Coach, our fans want to know about Aiden O'Connell and what you thought about him throughout the preseason and the games.
Yeah, we knew Aiden was a smart player, had won, a number of games at Purdue in a good league, and so, when we had the opportunity to get him, we felt like it was a good fit for what we do with our quarterbacks. I thought Aiden showed a lot of poise, composure, accuracy, runs the team the right way, good communicator, much more vocal than you would imagine when you see him with that little mustache and the rest of his face shaved. But he's a good leader, and he can get after the guys in the huddle. Played a lot of football in the preseason, which was the idea we had coming in, is to try to get him as much exposure in the game so he could feel some of those situations out. And thought he learned a lot. Still a lot of room to grow. We'll continue to work with him, obviously, daily as we head into the regular season.
Dave, what was something that impressed you on the defense in the preseason games?
Yeah, I think, the one thing that we saw is we got our hands on some footballs. Pursued the ball, attacked the ball, created some turnovers, and we know that's a very important part of playing really good defensive football, is create negative plays and turning over the football. And so we saw some of that. We still have a lot to prove in that area. We asked them to prove that every single day in practice, and we're hoping to see that here when we get to start the regular season.
Well, I had to get to Oakland and Marcus Peters. A lot of our listeners, a lot of our fans, season ticket holders, Coach. I'm going to ask you both. What did you know about him in the past? How was it getting him here? And what's it been like since he's been in the building?
Yeah, I've competed against him a number of times. And, Marcus has been a great player in our league for a while. And he's played on some really good football teams. He's been an important piece on those good football teams. He's scary to throw at, when you're game planning and figuring out what to do. There's always a little element of unknown. I told him I like that, more now when you're coaching him than when you were game planning against him. So Marcus is just a football player, very smart. One of the higher IQ guys that I've been around. Really gets the game, the situations, the formations, understands route concepts. He just has a great feel for playing the position. So it was really fortunate we were able to do that, and Dave was able to work that out and add him to our defense. And he's been a great mentor to our young players. He has a passion for football. He has a very competitive nature that he brings to our football team, and I'm excited that Marcus is a Raider.
Dave, how'd you pull it off?
Yeah, we did a lot of research, and like we do with each individual player that we bring onto the team, and it's different. Like in the college, during the college scouting process, you're in the schools, you're talking to people, and the free agency process is a lot more difficult to kind of just readily acquire that information. But the thing that kept coming up about Marcus as we talked to more people was what Josh hit on, which is very high football IQ. Many people said this is the smartest player we've ever played with, or coaches or GMs. And so, that's what we want to add to the team. And a guy that has a really high competitive nature, and a guy that got his hands on a lot of footballs over the course of his career. And so, Marcus, at the end of the day, he wanted to be a Raider. He grew up in Oakland. The Raiders were his team that he grew up rooting for. And so, it made a lot of sense for us to get together and make him a Raider.
All right, let's wrap it up with some fan questions. Dave, I'll start with you. This is Doug in section 122. Dave, how do you effectively balance the need to win now versus the need to build for the future?
Yeah, well, we always want to win. So we want to win every game. So there's a high priority on wanting to win now, but at the same time, you're always building your football team. Regardless of the year, the roster construction process and building your football team is an ongoing process every year, regardless of what the outcome is. And so, we're focused on winning and we're focused on building, and that's not going to change whether that's this year or down the road. That's where our mindset is.
Coach, this is from Rick in section 347. How do you juggle family life and football life during the season? Do you have any downtime?
No.
Yeah.
There's really not much juggling going on. But I'm blessed with a wonderful wife who's very independent. Been together for over 20 years, and my kids, there you go, praise God, that's right. My kids they all understand the football season is a little different for us as coaches. We make, use of the time that we get with them during the course of the year, which is really more Friday and Saturday than it is any other days of the week. But we chose this profession, we chose this life, and this is I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. So this is part of the deal, and we're getting ready to kick that into high gear now.
Nicely said. This comes from Colin in section 411 for Dave. Dave, in 2 years, what has changed from year 1 to year 2 for you?
Yeah, just continuity throughout the organization. An understanding of what our expectations are, a better understanding of what our standard is. On the scouting side of things specifically, just understanding of what the expectations, what we're looking for at each individual position, the importance of being tough, the importance of being smart, the importance of being able to perform in critical situations. Last year was a lot of teaching those things. Now there's still some teaching going on, but there's a lot more views and a lot more ideologies that are now in line, and it makes for a smoother process.
Coach, for you, from Mitch in section 340, he asked, how important is chemistry for the players off the field?
I think it's very important to the overall team environment. We get X amount of hours with them a week, but there's a lot of time that they have on their own. And I think we have a good group of guys that either get together as a position group. I know the defensive line does that, offensive linemen, secondary, receivers just had a dinner the other night. The quarterbacks, bought dinner for the linemen in Dallas, things like that. And it's those are the reasons why you play hard for the guy beside you. Not just because you wear the same uniform, the same helmet. It's because you learned about who that is, and you start to have a certain feeling about him, and you don't want to let your brother down. And I think our football team is really starting to come together in that regard. Our leadership has been fantastic, and we'll see that on full display here shortly.
Yeah, I'm happy you shared the captains. That's really exciting. Dave, one more for you. How is the development of Zamir White going?
Yeah, Zamir's made some strides here through the offseason, and he's done it because he's put in a lot of work. And he's a humble kid. He's a tough kid. We've seen a lot of growth just in the passing game, his route running, his ability to catch the football. He's improved in pass pro, and that's because he's put extra time in. Every individual player has to figure out, what does it take for me to be successful, and that might be different than the man next to me. And I think Zeus is starting to figure out what he needs to do to prepare and be successful each and every day and grow as a player, and we've been excited to see that growth.
Right, Coach, last one for you. What are the core values of this team heading into the season?
Play tough, play smart, make the other team actually beat us, don't beat ourselves. And we've increased our ability, I believe, to create some explosive plays in all areas of the football team. And Dave and I put an emphasis on that as we head into the offseason last year, and whether that be getting our hands on the football defensively, creating some explosive plays on offense, or improving in the return game, which I know we have done. Those are the things that I think we're going to see here shortly.
Nicely said. Thanks to our fans for the questions. One more from me. Fans want to know about the countdown to Denver. Dave, I'll start with you. The Raiders open on the road. That's a rivalry game. You seem to have the team ready.
Yeah, we're excited to go up to Denver. You know, anytime when you play the opponents you play twice a year, those are always big games. You know, Josh and I also once upon a time worked in Denver, so that makes it fun too.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of work. You know, to have a successful trip. We talked about it today. To have a successful trip up in Denver on September 10th, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Having a great day. Each and individual day, pushing yourself each and individual day, and then when you get to Sunday, it makes it easy. But you win the game through the week, and you know we're excited to take a little time here and get back and put the foot on the gas and get ready to roll.
Coach, your message to the Raider Nation heading into Week 1.
Division rival. We don't like them. They don't like us. And we're gonna come here Tuesday ready to work. We're gonna have a great week. It's time to go win.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. To all of our PSL holders, season ticket holders, thanks so much for being here, and go Raiders.